Awesome. We're going to talk about all about reeds today. Reeds are what make or break us as oboe players, literally. So they're really important, and not one reed fits everyone. So I might make a read and I really like it, and then I'll have a student try it, and it just won't sound good on them at all. And I try one that's okay for me, and they sound great on it. And a lot of that has to do with their how they form their embouchure, because everyone's lips are a little different. How much air they blow, and really just their instrument. They might have like a stuffier instrument, or one that plays really freely or plays a little sharp, so they might need a flatter reed. So anytime you're going to have reeds, you're pretty much always going to have to make adjustments. So we'll talk about how to make those adjustments and what all the parts of the reeds do. All right, so first we're going to talk about how to care for your reeds. This is really important. One of the more important things too about this is just having a good reed case. So one that has holds at least 3 reeds in it, and that stores them kind of sitting in it. You can see on here, this one has 6 and they just kind of sit in there. There's also reed cases that have pegs and you put the reed on the peg, and it closes in the same kind of a case. You just really don't want to use all the time, especially if you buy reeds online and they come in those tubes, and then you have to stick them back in the tube. Their reeds are so delicate. If you aren't paying attention, you can hit the side and then crack it. The other issue that we have with those tubes is we need to have a ventilation spot. And if you have it in that tube and there's no air hole, and you put the reed in wet, when you take it out the next day, you're going to have mold on your reed. So, and that's really not good. You're going to get yourself sick if you keep playing on a moldy reed. So, one that has the air vent. So this one, the top one has that little hole. Mine is an old cigarette case, and it's got a clasp, so it'll stay shut, but it's a little bent through the years. But it doesn't keep it, air tight, which is good because I want it to fully dry out. I also have, but this is because I only have this because I make so many reeds, but I have a reed stand that I let them kind of just fully dry out. I had a student once who had a really good case, but he kept coming in with his reeds showing a little mold. And then I asked him what happened, how is he storing his reeds? What's going on? And then I saw he showed me his case, and then I saw him go, and he had a pencil bag that had plastic on the outside in his binder, and he went to put his reed case in there and zipped it up, and I was like, whoa, that is why you're going moldy, because you're putting it in a Ziploc bag and trapping that air in there, and that is just, you're gonna grow mold on them. So reed case is really good to have, and making sure never to put it inside a Ziploc bag. Okay, so all that about the reed case, and then you want to properly soak your reeds too, so making sure that you're not always soaking your reed in your mouth. It's okay if you're in the middle of the band or orchestra and you're sitting there for a minute or something, and right before you play, you just kind of make sure it's still wet. You want to use a reed cup this you can buy online, but you can also use Tupperware or just a small glass. It really doesn't matter. And then this right here, there's this you can buy online. It's a clip that you can clip to your stand. So then it's like under where your music is. So then you don't have to worry about your music getting wet if you have your reed cup on the stand. So that's nice. The problem that I have with that is accidentally leaving the rehearsal without that clip, which I've done before. So then I buy a new one. So the reason you want to soak it in water is one, your mouth is not a very clean place. You know, even if you brush your teeth, you still have stuff in your mouth. So the more that you soak it in your mouth, the more that it's gonna degrade your reed faster. And then we also want the inside of the reed to get wet too, to get soaked so that it can fully vibrate. So if you're doing that in your mouth, unless you have like a full pool of saliva in your mouth, like you're not going to fully get that interior done. So it just plays much better when it's soaked. When it's not, you know that your reed does not vibrate very well. Okay. So where to buy reeds if you don't have a private teacher that you're getting reeds from? So beginner players, I just taught a master's class last spring online with band directors, and they shared where they buy their students' reeds from and which ones are pretty stable, like their students do pretty well on them. So I have not tried these reeds because I make my own, but these were their suggestions. So there's singing dog reeds, emerald reeds, and then Nielsen woodwinds reeds. So you can Google those first two, and then Nielsen woodwinds. They've been around a long time. They actually used to be in Villa Park, Illinois, and then they moved to Arkansas. And then for intermediate or advanced players, there's a lot of places on Etsy you could try. So there's A. Lakota reeds, Aaron's oboe reeds, Janae Engel, and oboe duck. So I also know, like, check out your geographical location of where these reeds are being made. So, like, I'm in Chicago, and I actually know that Janae actually lives in Indiana, Chicago area. So she would be a good one for me if I needed to buy some reeds to buy from, because we're in the same geographical location. So if you are like down closer to sea level, it's also very humid. So they're going to make their reeds a little differently, taking more out of the back probably to close the reed down a little bit, because when it's really humid, you want the reed to be a little closed. When we're dry, like right now, oh my gosh, and this area, like, we suddenly went really dry and got colder really quickly, and all my reeds like closed down a lot where they were mostly pretty open. Still playable and good, but yeah, the opening of the reeds have really changed. So really kind of investigating too on where you buy your reeds, of where they're making them at. And if they're in a similar location, you're probably okay. But if you can't, if you really like someone's reeds, but you need to make an adjustment, then we'll learn how to make those adjustments. Okay. How long do reeds last? This is a question I get all the time. People want to know, like, weeks, months, how long. It's really based on like the hours. How many hours of playing are you playing on them? Are you playing it for like a 3-hour rehearsal and then another 3-hour rehearsal? They're gonna wear down faster the more you play on them. So having like a rotation of reeds is really good. But anyways, when you get a new reed, it's going to be pretty brand new feeling. I would say for like up to 12 to maybe 15 hours of playing. So if you're playing like an hour every day, it's going to feel brand new for about a week, week and a half. And then, so when it's brand new feeling, it's going to vibrate really well. Your pitch, you always want the crow to be at a C. At a C. It has enough like resistance. This one feels really good that I can like fully blow a lot of air in it, and it has a good size opening. When they're broken in more, that's like on the next stage, it's really pretty comfortable, but maybe it won't let you blow as much, but you know, when you're it might have gone a little sharp, so then you have to relax your embouchure a little bit to compensate for that, but it still plays pretty well, vibrates well. It might even start to sound a little thinner in the timbre, but in general has a nice pleasant tone. Might feel a little easy and feel like you can't fully blow through it, but the tip opening is still okay. It's still pretty good. After about 30 hours of playing, it's probably dead to on its way to dying. That when the pitch goes really sharp, like, because it can go up to about a half step, a quarter step, half step sharp. And that's when your band director is looking at you like, what's going on? The timbre has become like really thin and maybe even like reedy sounding. The tip opening, this is what I see a lot. Is like the tip opening is just really tiny. You can barely see through it. So trying to think. So like if you can see my reed. So this is a good opening. When it's starting to die, your tip opening is going to be like this. Like barely you can see, you can get through it. So when you're like that, when you're playing on a really old reed for a long time, your embouchure has now relaxed so much that when you go to a new reed, you're going to be extremely flat because you've kind of lost your muscle tone in your embouchure, and you have to go, oh wait, I need to reform and blow more air and come around the reed a little bit. So there's always that adjustment. So anyways, yes, we want the reeds to last as long as we can. So a good way to do that is always keep a variety of reeds in your case. So 1 to 2 newer reeds, 1 to 2 broken in, and then maybe one that's on its way out, but it's still a backup reed. It's still playing pretty much in pitch. You might have to adjust a little bit. But you have that as like your backup. Say maybe you're getting really tired, and in band you're going to be playing a march where the trumpets are just blasting anyways and no one can hear you. Go ahead and use that backup reed. Like no one's going to hear you anyway. Okay, so another thing we can do with our reeds is to help kind of revive them a little bit more without even using a knife. So what you can do, sometimes we just even need a pipe cleaner. Oh, what did I do with my pipe cleaners? I've got one in my desk. I can get it. Okay. So we can use just like a regular pipe cleaner that you can get at the at your like Hobby Lobby or whatever. I try to find ones that aren't very fuzzy, but they're kind of hard to find. So and then you can take scissors. I've got pliers, and I just cut it to longer than the length of the reed. So longer than the length of the reed. So when we've been playing on a reed too for a while, we can get a lot of like gunk inside the reed. And that just happens, we eat with our mouth, so like stuff will get in it. Sometimes, especially in the winter time, our the skin on our lip starts peeling off and it can get stuck inside the reed. So we need to get that out. One way we can do it is quick if you don't have a pipe cleaner, is just blow through the end of the tube. Oop, I just got water all over my keyboard. um, and kind of try to blow that out. But usually the stuff inside the reed is like gunky and sticky, so it's hard to get out. So you use a pipe cleaner and you push it through the end of the tube and then go all the way through. Do not backtrack. You're going to take part of the reed with you and destroy your reed then. So only go straight through and then you'll be fine. And then that you'll see it'll be like gunky on the end, and then just throw the paper or the pipe cleaner away. So the reason why I don't use the whole thing is because these can easily bend. So if there's like a bent part in it, it might get trapped in there and make it harder to get out. So that's why I cut it into little snippets. So there's that. When you get gunk in there, it makes it kind of stuffier, a little bit harder feeling. So that's a good thing to try first, is to just clean out your reed. The next thing you can do is use hydrogen peroxide. So what you're gonna do is fill your reed cup. I have this with hydrogen peroxide. I use this to disinfect my reed. So if I have a student try a reed and they really didn't like it, then I will put it in the hydrogen peroxide afterwards to disinfect it before I put it back in my case. And so I just have a bit of it, and if you're trying to revive it, I would let it soak in there for about 10 minutes. And then if it's really like dirty and like gunky in there, you'll actually see bubbles starting to like come out of the tube end, which is good. It means that it's like eating away anything that's like breaking the reed down. And then just bring it to your faucet with just a light trickle and put the tube end up and let the water go through it, just to get the hydrogen peroxide out so you don't ingest it. And then maybe soak it a little bit, and then usually it's fine. If you really don't like the taste of it afterwards, you can also dip your reed, have a little cup of mouthwash, and then you get a minty reed. So, and nice breath. So so that's another way to make that last longer. Let's go over the different parts of the reed so you understand when you need to make adjustments, how to make adjustments. So the tip of the reed, you can see my pointer, right? Yeah, so I'll use this reed on here so it's easier. So the tip controls the initial vibrations. It's the thinnest part of the reed, so you have to be very careful with the tip of it because it can easily chip away and break. The heart is right here. It's this little kind of looks like a house section. So it controls the pitch, and then it's the thickest part of the reed. The problem with the heart is if it's too thick, then it's going to be hard to play. So we need to scrape that down a bit, but if you scrape too much, then the reed is flat and it's eternally flat. So there's a balance that has to happen. All right, and then we have the back and the windows. That's these like kind of thinner sections over here. So it gives it more depth to the sound. Also, it controls the flexibility of the reed. It also affects the closing, the opening and closing of the reed. So if your reed is really open, usually take more out of the back to like kind of break it down. That's another thing I do when I have a reed that has a good opening, like too big of an opening, but plays pretty well to kind of break it down. As long as it's soaked, I'll pinch the end and then I'll just use my fingers and kind of just massage the back and it kind of squishes it down a little bit and then it feels more comfortable in your mouth. Um, okay, and then the spine that is like right in the center, and that helps keep the reed together, stable. It makes it stable. If you don't have a spine, it's like if you didn't have a spine, you'd be like jelly. Like your back would just flop over. So you can play on a reed without a spine, but it's like way too flexible and like usually will probably be a little on the flat side. The rails are where the bark is on the side of the reed, and those are to prevent leaking. We keep the cane on there so that there's no air escaping. Okay. Tools that you'll need for making reed adjustments. The first thing is a knife. I use a wedge or a double hollow ground. I've got this little picture of all the different knives. There's a beveled knife, the wedge, double hollow ground, and there's a double hollow ground razor style. So that you can see they're all different thicknesses. I don't like beveled knives, but I see a lot of like bassoon players use beveled knives. Bassoonists don't want as sharp of a knife as oboe players do. So they might use that. I think I did have a bevel knife at once, but I felt like it didn't stay as sharp as the rest of them. So I'll go back and forth between my knives too on which one I'll use for what area. Okay, and then you'll need a knife. Well, generally, so like the wedge knives are usually the cheapest. They're around $40 or $50. And then but some of these like double hollow ground ones can be like $120. Okay. So you'll also need a plaque. There are flat plaques and contoured plaques. So it's like this. The contoured plaque just means it's like a little thicker. So it looks more like it would fit, it would be like the shape of the cane. So it's a little thicker in the center, thinner on the outsides. The flat is flat. Everyone has their preference in what they like to use. I like the contoured, so then I don't have to press as much with my knife. And so the plaque is bringing the cane closer to my knife. Otherwise, you have to press down more until you have that surface. But some people like that better. So, and then there's a cutting block. So it's just like a little block. I have had this since I was in 6th grade. Still use it. Same one. And then a double-edged razor. I use a double-edged razor to clip my reeds, and then I can just kind of get it at the hardware store. I have in the past used my knife to clip it. It's all kind of in preference, but I have gone back to the razor blade. I've gone back and forth. I might go back to the knife again sometime. You also want a ruler because where we make each section of the reed is very specific. I like using this ruler that you can buy on any like oboe reed making site. It's small, so it's easy for me to, when I'm tying on reeds, to hold everything in one hand and use this ruler. Where if you have a bigger ruler, it's kind of more jumbly in your hands. Also, it's metal, so then it doesn't like wear out the bottom like some of the plastic rulers can. And then you'll want a sharpening stone to sharpen your knives. And this actually, sharpening could be like a whole nother class on how to sharpen your knives, because you might be having trouble making adjustments because your knife is not sharp enough. So but you can look on YouTube. There's lots of different videos on different ways to sharpen your knives. I use a ceramic stone. I do have like an Indian sandstone too. There's diamond stones. Again, it's a preference. You just kind of usually do whatever your teachers have done and kind of go along with that. So anyways, there's all those. These are all the basic things you need to do. You have to make adjustments on your reeds. Ooh, let's see. There we go. Okay. So we need to, now we're going to talk about how to hold the reed and how to hold your knife. So I made a little video so then you can see exactly how I did this. Is this like little screen big enough, or do you want me to like exit out so that it can go on a full screen? What would you guys prefer?
Could we see how it looks as is
Yeah.
and make a game plan
Sure.
decision? Thank you.
Sure. Okay. We can always, yeah, go back and forth. Okay. So I'm not talking at all in this video. I'm just showing you. So here I have my reed, and then here I have my plaque. So I'm holding, making sure that the reed is in the palm of my hand, and then making sure that your finger is not pushing against the reed. It's just laying flat so that it's supporting the reed but not lifting onto it. Okay? And then now I'm going to talk about my knife. So I don't put my thumb on the actual knife. I'm just on the handle, because we want to use basically the weight of the knife to put pressure on it. Now, if you notice too, like if I was to scrape, I need this thumb to make connection with the knife, or else I don't have any control of the knife if this thumb is not guiding it. I'm trying to see what else I did. So anyways, what else did I do on this video? Oh, there. And now it plays. I think that was a brand new read. So here I have the cutting block. Now it's the tip is really long, so I'm going to clip it. So I just have it. I'm gonna stop this really quick so I can talk a little bit. So when I have, I'm trying to think of when I have, yeah, I have it kind of flat on the block, but my blade is not straight up and down. It's a little slightly angled, because we want one blade to be like less than an eighth maybe of a millimeter shorter than the other, and we want that shorter edge on your bottom lip, so you always face that towards you. So when I clip, on all of our reeds, of course I have a black reed, so now you can't see it, but there's one string that like crosses over at the top. I always have that up when I'm clipping, so that I know that the crossed over part is always going on my bottom lip. So then I don't have to always look and see, okay, can I see the other side, which is the longer side, which is the shorter side. So there we go. Keep going with this. So I give it a little clip. And now that crow sounds a little better, but still a little low. So the first clip I did was pretty. Oh, did the video stop? No, it didn't. Okay. The first clip I did was pretty big. And the second one I did is more normal, which is more of the size that you're going to do when you're making adjustments. You want to have your clips be about maybe a eighth of a millimeter at a time, maybe less than that too. So you can make a lot of clips. All of your adjustments you're going to make are all going to be really slight, very minimal taking off. So you can see just taking off a little bit. Not very much at all. And usually when I'm making a reed and I'm just crowing it, I'm not doing anything in the like playing it at all. I usually have like Netflix on or like music and I'm doing something else. Otherwise, it's kind of quiet during this process. And then I'll clip it again. So, okay. Cool. I don't remember what I did at the end of this. I think that was about it. Okay. All right. Let's see. Oh, okay. So now that you know how to hold the reed when you're making adjustments and how to hold the knife, let's talk about how to make what the problem is and then what adjustment to make. So if the reed is sharp, we need to scrape gently. I should have put a picture of the reed up here so I could have used that. But you want to scrape in the heart area again. But make sure never to scrape over. So we have that spine back here that I showed you. It does go into the heart. So we want to make sure that when we do try to bring the pitch down in the heart, that we don't go over the center. We kind of stick in the same channels as down in the back. So scrape between the rails and the spine. Scraping even very little will bring the pitch down. So that's kind of the easier thing to do is if it's sharp is to bring that down. You just do a little bit in the heart. If the reed is flat, you're gonna clip it. You can maybe take a little bit out of the windows in the back. That can bring the pitch up a little bit, but mostly it's just making the reed shorter so that the pitch goes up. So I already talked about that you clip at a slight angle, about an eighth of a millimeter at a time, and you want to keep clipping until it crows a C. So if it's crowing a B flat, ooh, that's really flat. If it's crowing a B, it's pretty flat still. And you can play on a reed that crows a B, but you're probably going to be lipping it up a lot to get it to play in tune. So to crow it, you actually want, this is like the only time you do this, we're always saying be on the tip of the reed, but when you crow it, you're gonna have your lips all the way at the string. A lot of pressure, a lot of air, but you want that pitch to be a C, and you want to hear a high pitch and a low pitch. Okay? The reed, a finished reed, should be at 70 millimeters. It's okay if it ends up at like 69, but once you kind of get past that, so say it's still flat and you're measuring and it's at 68 millimeters, it is probably gonna always be flat and just never be in tune. And then this is where you go, okay, I just need to give up, and you smash it, which everyone has their little like reed cemetery. But it's kind of, you know, satisfying to go and smash it. Okay, so a flat and the beginner reeds, usually the problem that you have with those is that they are so easy, and they are very flat. So those are the ones that you usually have to make more adjustments with the pitch. Your intermediate to advanced ones that are made, you might have to do a little bit, but definitely on those beginner ones, that's usually the problem. Okay, so if the reed is too easy, like you're playing on it and it's kind of like feels like it's vibrating all over in your mouth, we need to give it a little bit more resistance. And you can try to clip it, and then that'll, as long as the pitch is not sharp, or you don't think it'll go too sharp with clipping it, by making the tip of the tip not be so thin, it makes it a little thicker by clipping it. That'll help give it a little more resistance and make it a little harder. But you also can try making short scrapes at the bottom corners of the tip, making more of like a little bit of a lip between the bottom corners of the so like down here where it's the heart to the tip, right at the corners. If you make more definition, that's gonna hinder the vibrations to not go completely all the way through, and then that gives it more control, so it's not vibrating all over in your mouth. If the reed is too hard, we're gonna do the opposite. If sometimes you'll get a reed and it'll be like, here's the heart and here's the tip, and there's like this big shelf. So what I do with that is I scrape from the heart into the tip and make it more into a slope, and then that makes the vibrations go all the way through the reed, and it makes it easier. It will probably make the reed get a little flat, so then you clip it as long as you can. Okay, and then if the reed just like feels okay, like it's not hard, but it feels a little stuffy, like there's a sock in it, it's probably that it's too thick in the top center of your heart. So I just really gently take a little bit off there, not very much at all, and usually that'll help clear up the sound. It'll make it sound more vibrant, less kind of dull feeling. So, what time do we have? Yeah, it's like 6:45. So I have a video of like all the scraping techniques and clipping. It's like 8 minutes long after I did everything. So I can send out to everyone this, I can send the link to this so you can watch it on your own. But I want to make sure that I leave time for everyone to ask any questions that you may have, and I'll try my best to answer it. So you can leave, the questions in the chat. All right, so Izzy Rowe, where would I buy this for my reeds? Oh, like all the tools you need. RDG Woodwinds sells reed kits. forestmusic.com, charlesmusic.com. I think Midwest Musical Imports, that's mmimports.com. They sell usually, like you'll see like a reed making kit, and to tie on the only, okay, so for everything you need to just scrape and everything, It's, the knife is the most expensive part. And then the plaque is maybe like $8 to $10. And then yeah, all you really need is a wood block, which is probably another, I don't know, $10 to $15. So you're going at maybe like $80 to $100 for this. To buy the other stuff to actually like tie on, the all you need to tie on the reed will be cane, your the staples, the tubes, a mandrel, which holds your reed when you're tying it on, and then thread. And that's probably like another $100. So all in, if you want to do like your own reed making, it's about 200. um but yeah, like I said, most of the things, other than the cane, you can use for a really long time. This mandrel is the same one I've had since 6th grade. I have tried other ones and I still end up using this one most of the time. All right, so David said, when tying on, how tight should you wind the thread? Does it matter? And how much of a crossover is preferred on the blades when tying on the staple? Okay. I tie on pretty tight. I actually accidentally, and I got really mad, I bought new thread. I really liked it. I probably have like 25 spools of thread because I just really like different colors and having certain reeds have certain, anyways. But I bought this thread and I was really excited to use it. It's like black and pink and like purpley. And then I went to tie it on and snap. It breaks all the time because it's cotton thread and you have to use nylon or else it will break. It has that coating on it to help stabilize it more. I accidentally bought bassoon thread. It didn't say bassoon when I bought it. It was just like, here's reed thread in the oboe section. So it was mislabeled and I didn't notice that it said cotton. But I tie pretty tight. So when I'm tying on, there should be tension on the string the whole time. So you'll hear it, like you can pluck it and it'll go bing, 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 bing. You want to hear that the whole time that you're tying on. If it gets loose and slacks, you're gonna it'll have leaks in it. But when I do the first wrap, I would say I'm pretty tight holding on to the mandrel, like pulling from my desk. And then when I'm making those first 3 wraps up, 3 or 4, wherever I am on the cane, I'm not tying as tight. I'm just trying to like keep it close, and then by the time I get towards the end, I want it to seal, and then I pull from my desk and from my spool, and then I cross over. And then I check everything and make sure everything's lined up. Make sure it's the right length. Everything's on straight. And then really fast down usually. Yeah, so you need it pretty tight. For the crossover, so what he's talking about, I'll get a lot of beginner students that say, "Oh my gosh, I looked at my reed and I have a crack in it," and then I see their reed, I'm like, "There's no crack," and then they're like, "Oh yeah, right here." So your reed, or we'll see if we can see it on here. It's just. So it's really hard to see. You can slightly see over here that you can see the other side. When you tie on the reed, you don't tie it on straight like this because it's one blade and we flip it over and make 2. But when we tie it on, we want to shift it a little bit. So then those sides lock in together. My colleague and I once were having a discussion that I said that I make mine go to the right. And she said, "Oh, no, no, I make it go to the left." And then we looked at our reeds and we were saying the same thing, but a different way. So I was saying, like, I take the top blade and go to the right. And she's saying I take the bottom blade and I go to the left, and we're doing the same things. You don't want that to be huge, because then it actually, like, if it gets too much though, it you'll feel it, and it almost like cuts into your lip. So when the other thing about this is being careful when you take your reed out of the oboe. If you are twisting from the string, the cane is underneath the string, and then if you're twisting on the string, then you're ending up twisting the cane, and it's going to make it splay more. And then you can still play on it. It's a little harder. The adjustment that I make for that is I just take my razor and I make that one side. I just cut it in, and it makes it more narrow. But then they can still play on it. So being really careful with that of how you're taking that out. Usually, how I tell my students, let's also backtrack. Your reed is always all the way in the oboe. We do all of our adjustments with our embouchure. If our reed is flat or sharp, we will take it out, scrape it, and do that. So we don't pull in or out, push in. I mean, you're always pushed in, but you don't ever pull out your reed if your band director is telling you that you are sharp. It will fix that one note maybe, but it throws off all the other notes. We're not the same as clarinets or flutes or saxophones that can do that, where they are adjusting their instrument. We don't do that. But anyway, so when you're trying to take out your reed, have the bell between your legs and on your chair. Hold on to the top joint. Put your thumb behind the reed or in front of the reed. Wrap your finger behind and then rock it. Wiggle it back and forth. Make it come up a little bit, and then you can twist it out. Since it's winter time too, and you have a long sleeve, sometimes you just take that sleeve. Ugh, my sleeve is not long enough to do this. But you just grab it and then you can twist it. It gives it a little bit more friction. You can get that out. Okay. Can you reuse the tube cork section of the reed once it is dead and you have broken it? Yes. What you can reuse that. I do the same thing as what I just described of when I disinfect the reeds, I disinfect the tubes too, and I take the cane and string completely off. I put the metal part down, and I will actually put hydrogen peroxide, like pour a little bit down the tube and let it sit there for 10 minutes. And then I take the pipe cleaner and I push the pipe cleaner through a couple of times and get all that out. So then, maybe you've had a cold or something like that too, you've disinfected it so you can use that again. But yeah, you can keep using that until the cork completely comes off, and because it does deteriorate over time. Okay, so someone's asking, do you tie on with the ears on or cut the ears off? I actually have cane right now that has what they're talking about. Okay, so I just did tied on some reeds today. So here's that. I just tied on, and after I tie on, I just scrape the tip of it so that the tip of it starts drying with a little bit of a slope. So it has a better opening than I want. Okay, so I can't bend this because it's not wet. But let's see if you could see it. So the ears are he's talking about I don't have one. Do I have one with the bigger ears? Uh, let's see. Little I guess I scraped mine in, cut mine in a little bit deep. It's harder to see, but anyways, so there we go. So these are the ears. That is on there because when I shape my cane, so this is cane that is just gouged. Okay. Excuse me. My throat is getting dry. I will soak this for 30 minutes and then I take it over my knife after it's soaked and flip it in half. Okay. Then after it's flipped in half, I will take my knife and have the cane that's folded in half, and I like just make the cane instead of a square go in a little bit just so that it fits better on this. So this is a shaper tip in the handle, and when the cane is still like rectangle, I put it on here, I clamp it down, and then I take a razor blade and I scrape the cane off to match to until it's flush with the metal. So what happens is like this little part up top, I can't scrape that off because this metal is in the way. It's holding the cane on there. Um, I tie it on with the ears. Maybe what you're talking about is do you scrape with the ears on? I take mine off. I know other people leave it on because it kind of will naturally come off when you're scraping, but I do scrape it off. So I just take like a knife and I go straight down to like get until it's flush to have that look like this from there. Awesome. Does anyone else have any questions about reeds or about oboe playing in general, about pitch, tone, breathing? Will the recording of this meeting be posted anywhere? Well, Sarah, will you send the recording out?
Yes, absolutely. I can address that. This meeting has been recorded, and I am going to be sending the Panopto recording to the magical people at Vandercook, who are going to make it lovely and beautiful as a YouTube video, and then it will be sent to all participants.
Awesome. Awesome. Cool. Yeah. And I can send our team to my slideshow and the YouTube links. I didn't make the YouTube links public because like one of them I'm not even talking in it, so who wants to watch that? But I don't know. So anyways, so yeah, we can send those links to that too. Does anyone else have any questions or any questions about like Vandercook or just oboe playing? What is the time frame you recommend between different phases of reed making? Good question. So, I like to put in drying cycles. So I will do like one step per day. So I will like one day I will tie on, like I did with this one, scrape a little bit of the tip, and then I let it dry all night. Then the next day I'll do the rough scrape. So I'll scrape all the different parts of the reed. I'll clip it. I'll put my plaque in and I scrape all the parts again until it vibrates really easily. Then I let it sit. Then the next day, I will start scraping it until it crows in tune. I don't put it in my oboe at all. If I do that, I find that I do too much because I'm trying to still make it sound good and I need to focus on it one, vibrating well, then two, playing in pitch. So I get it to just crow in pitch. And usually by then, my goal is to have it be at like 71 millimeters crowing in pitch. I let it dry and then I do it again the next day. I'll actually put it in my instrument, usually bring it down. I might like a reed a lot, but I let it sit another day. I do the same thing again. I just play on it, make adjustments, and I might even do that one more time or a couple of times because it's sometimes I feel like with the drying process, like with maybe the weight of the knife, like the cells almost expand again and come up. So then it feels thicker and harder. So I have to like bring it down. It's kind of all of a going in and out process. You can make a reed in a day and play on it in a concert, but it will probably die right after the concert. But if you're in a pinch, you can do that. I just like to do it in those stages. So maybe it'll take me like 5 to 6, 7 days to feel like I have finished reeds. And then I feel like they last longer. And so I will always have a rotation. I have some reeds that I have tied on. So on my rack right now, I have reeds that I just tied on, reeds that I still need to tune. I was going to do that later tonight, to just crow at a C. And then I have 2 cases that hold a dozen reeds, and those are filled with, I have like 5 or 6 that are probably done, maybe need like one more time of replaying and breaking in a little bit, and the rest are all like done and they are how they are. So yeah, I hope that answers any questions. So feel free to do, if you think of anything later, about reed making or Vandercook or anything oboe related, or not oboe related, you can ask me anything. Feel free to email me at jpopplewell@vandercook.edu, and I hope everyone has learned something and feels more empowered that maybe they can help their reeds, and have a good night then.